There are others that are covering almost 40% through student fees. So I think this is a political issue, because, you know, when you raise this issue, part of the problem with any reforms in education is that they're deeply resisted, simply because, first of all, students are a very active voice. Students are easily mobilized. The students who are mobilized are usually not the ones who are thinking deeply about the quality of education. So virtually any of these reforms, you can easily imagine a huge amount of student unrest. Unfortunately, teachers are also unionized. So a lot of reforms will not easily be accepted by the academic community. So I think that, you know, education is a very difficult area, and we need to move down this path in a very thoughtful way. The last few points I want to make relate to the issue of excellence. You know, expansion, equality of access, and excellence. These were the 3 E's. I think that we have to recognize that there is a tension between expansion and excellence. And I don't think this is a problem. We are not expecting, when we say that 25% of every age cohort should get a university education, we're not expecting 25% of them to become scientific geniuses and to win Nobel Prizes, etc. We're expecting them to become educated people with a broad-based education, can go out and then do a decent day's work. Many of them will be highly skilled, but some of them have to be at the cutting edge of knowledge. I think we have to recognize that in this matter, we are actually competing with the whole world to retain the best of our young students. Because the rest of the world is operating on the assumption that faculty and research scientists should have virtually no visa restrictions. So in effect, if you're running a university and you want to attract the best Indian minds, let's be clear about it, you're competing with Europe and the United States. Because anyone really good, those universities are very keen to recruit. So are we providing an environment in which we are likely to be able to attract them? This is very crucial. Second, in any case, these universities offer very attractive postgraduate fellowships, because they recognize that it is in the postgraduate phase that you really judge who actually has an academic potential and who is actually very bright but better go into business or into merchant banking or something. So they have very attractive scholarship programs to attract people. So my guess is that our best students, in a way it's a sign of the strength of our system that our best students will go to the best universities abroad. But it should be a sign of the strength of our system that we are able to attract them back. And quite frankly, I think the Chinese have done an extraordinary job of this. The Chinese have brought back into their university system about 1,000 Chinese scientists who were actually working in US universities, and brought them back by giving them a package of incentives that enables them to come back and teach. Now, you know, internationally, our estimate in the Planning Commission is that in the year 2030, India will be the 3rd largest GDP in the world. What we now call poverty will not be there. We will not be the richest country in the world, but we will be a middle-income country. Now, the issue you have to ask yourself is that if we become the 3rd largest GDP, that's after China and the US, China will have overtaken the US before then. I will certainly be larger than Japan, Germany, Britain, France, all these countries. Now, if you're going to be the 3rd largest GDP, what kind of university system do we want to have? And how many of our universities should be counted in the top 200 or the top 300 or the top 400? Now, actually, it takes a long time to create excellence. You know, I should tell you that my wife and I shared this. We've recently become grandparents, so we have a 19-month-old grandson. So all of a sudden, I'm extremely interested in the quality of education 20 years from now. You know, my children got educated in India a long time ago. I didn't think about education very much. And it's really true that if you want to plan for an educational system, 20 years is the, if you want to create first-rate universities, 20 years is what you need. Now, I think we in the government, this is something we're going to take up with Mr. Kapil Sibal. We have said that we will have 14 innovation universities. Now, originally, what the government of India had announced was 14 world-class. You cannot build a world-class university. You can build a world-class building, but it takes 20 years before somebody will say, yes, that's a world-class university. So we recognize that, and we called it innovation universities. The idea is that the governance structure of these universities would give all kinds of flexibility, which the normal central universities do not have. I think that bill is still being drafted, and it's worth taking some time on it. But one of the critical things that we should consider is, while this is good, and I support it, we ought to have a much more focused program of creating centers of excellence. We should we should decide now that we will have 50 centers of excellence in existing universities. I mean, consider that, you know, when we set up a new university, I mean, all the prime locations in the country have already been taken up by the universities that exist. And therefore, if you want to create a center of excellence, bring in some people for 2 years, 3 years, etc., setting up a new university in some Mufassil area is not going to be the way of attracting people. Whereas actually there are universities in towns and cities that are well established, have a lot of facilities for schooling, etc. So I would request the West Zone Vice Chancellor's meeting to give some thought. What is it that the government of India, in your view, should do? Whether it's a central university or a state university, what's the package that would enable the university to create a center of excellence? But I would say that that package is something that should say what the university is going to do in return for what the central government can do. I mean, the simplest answer is give us 100 crores. Every time I meet a vice chancellor, they say, give us 100 crores. But, you know, everybody knows that if somebody had 100 crores, you will get a building, you'll get a gymnasium, you'll get an auditorium, you'll get computer centers, you will not get a center of excellence. So my view is the human part of the center of excellence that is absolutely crucial. And I would really request this conference, you know, we are conducting a very open and inclusive method of trying to get ideas. So there is a portal out there on the internet. If you go to the Planning Commission, 12th Plan, you have an opportunity to put across your views. So I will go back. When I go back, I'm going to instruct. We have people looking at the suggestions that come in. I'm going to instruct them that anything that comes in from Vice Chancellor, West Zone Conference should be brought to my notice. I really would like to know against what offer on your part, and that would be a tough offer, do you think we can provide assistance to create centers of excellence? Let me say one of the simplest things is appointments. I mean, centers of excellence are not created if appointments are made on a seniority basis. And they're not created if you're simply choosing people from within. The last point that I want to make, which is actually something that the government of India also has to think about. Around the world, people are now aware that a university experience has to be an international experience. You cannot have a first-class university experience if your students and your teachers do not have an international component. Now, our problem is, since we have huge lack of capacity, there's really no willingness on our part to take apart seats for foreign students. But you know, that ignores the fact that actually the presence of foreign students is making a major contribution to the education of the Indian students in the universities. And the same thing is true for foreign faculty. So I would also like, if from the experience you have, what is it that in your view would facilitate the entry of more students from abroad studying at our universities? So with these words, thank you very much for inviting me, and I wish this conference all success. Thank you.